Los Angeles Chargers on the road at the Houston Texans. As we sit right now, it is 3 across the board, unless you're here in Las Vegas where you can get the 2.5 at South Point. 42.5 is our total. And Mo, this was something I started talking about with you 6 weeks ago where I was like, man, I can't wait to get to the playoffs and bet against Houston and whatever. And I can't wait to the playoffs and bet against the Chargers because I didn't believe in the Chargers. And here they are. Of course, they're matched up. So I can't hate on both of these teams. But, you know, I can't help but get away from one of the things that you've said here over the last month of the pod, which about this Chargers team, which is just kind of a team that goes in and on underperforming teams that are a little bit weaker, they tend to, with the coaching advantage, the quarterback play, just kind of beat up on those teams. And I can't seem to get away from that here in this one. Can't wait to see what you think about it. From an injury standpoint, Josh Palmer is out for the Chargers on a questionable side of things. Quarterback Eli Apple, running back J.K. Dobbins, wide receiver Quentin Johnston, linebacker Denzel Perryman, and their right guard Trey Pipkins all listed as questionable on the Texans side. Right guard Shaq Mason is actually out, so they will be down an offensive lineman for sure, an offensive line that was already bad to begin with. Questionable defensive end Nico Autry. Wide receiver John Mechie, that matters only because of the depth that they have at the wide receiver position. Then linebacker Christian Harris also questionable for them. So this open 2.5, we see now that this has flipped to 3, so some Charger support has come in.
Yeah, it took all week. Somebody likes the Chargers, I guess. I do not, unfortunately. I hate it, but I did take the Texans, +3. -115, you can get better now. I think I saw there's a -112 on DK. I took some money line +136. I'm seeing as high as 140 now on Bet365. I just can't get the Texans to this big of an underdog. I mean, I do think the Chargers are better. I think the Chargers probably should be small favorites. I can't get them past like 1.5 here, though. I mean, they're still facing an elite defense. Like you said, something all year this Chargers team has done is just beat the piss out of these really bad teams. I don't put the Texans in that category. They're probably on a similar level to the Falcons. The Falcons outplayed the Chargers pretty convincingly, but Kirk Cousins single-handedly threw the game away with pick sixes. The Falcons are a bit weaker than Houston by DVOA, but in the same ballpark. They're 20th, Houston's 16th. I don't really see the Chargers. Well, what have they shown us that they should be -3 on the road against a playoff team? I just can't get to this big of a number here. I mean, yeah, better coach and a better quarterback. That obviously holds a lot of weight, but I think that's being baked in here when they're -3 on the road. I think a fun prop for this one, which is a player that popped up into their roster and last week played, is Deontay Johnson. He, I think, might move the needle. He's easily their second most talented receiver. I mean, yeah, it's not even close. It's like he's their only other receiver besides Nico that's probably above replacement level. They threw him in there with the first team offense. He was in their very first drive. He had 4 targets, 2 catches. He played like 40% of the snaps. I think he's going to actually play a role in this game. FanDuel is quite a bit off the rest of the market on his anytime touchdown odds. They are hanging 11-1. I mean, you just can't get starting receivers for that kind of price. So if you want an anytime touchdown punt, I think that one's pretty good.
Yeah, so I said I have access to. So if you guys don't know, if you never lived in Vegas or been to Vegas a ton, so one of the unique things about specifically the South Point is they don't juice lines. And so basically you are always going to have a 110 line. And so they are either the first or the last to move lines because it is a deal where they'll hold on because the 2.5s never turn into 120s or whatever. And all it's just, it goes from 2.5 to 3. It goes from 3 to 2.5 or whatever it might be. And so I actually did take a little to the 2.5 here on the Chargers. And I can't get past the fact that if Houston doesn't get a lead in this game, and if they are playing from behind, I have absolutely no confidence in this team at all to come and play in chase mode, and mainly because of how poor the offensive line has been. We talk about the regression for C.J. Stroud, and certainly there has been this year, but he played at just such an incredibly high level as a rookie. It probably was unsustainable anyway. He's probably actually somewhere between where he was last year and where he is this year. It's probably where he'll settle in the grand scheme of things. But you talk about him regressing just a tad, but I think a lot of that too just has the fact this offensive line has really let him down so far this year. And so if they get into a spot in which this Chargers team is up and then you basically have to go into throw mode, I don't have a ton of confidence in them to be able to do that, and for Stroud to have enough time to actually execute that on an efficient basis in all of this. And, look, I hate both of these teams. I can't believe I even put in a bet on the Chargers here when it came down to it, but I do think that there are some inherent advantages, obviously on the quarterback side of things, obviously on the coaching side of things. And then I do think, Nico Collins, by the way, just like weirdly enough, has not been all that efficient since he's come back. It's like, I think he's a true number one when there's a true number two. And I think that helps him out a ton. You have the Chargers to play a bunch of too high. He has actually been way worse against too high over the course of this season as well. So I think that might be able to limit his production a tad. So I did play some 2.5 here on the Chargers. One of the other things I looked at too, and I want to get your opinion, is just, so Ladd McConkey, right? Like we've got, there's no Josh Palmer. Quentin Johnston's banged up. The Texans are really good against the run. It seems to me like Herbert might get, a little bit more pass happy in this one, just as far as path of least resistance type stuff goes. And you're looking at a dude that has had to de facto become the number one there, even though I'm sure they wished he didn't have to be the number one. But we're looking at like 12, 7, 6, 10, 8 targets over his last 5 games. He's reached at least 83 receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 games as well. And so his receiving prop is set at 73.5. And so I don't know. I think that there's a decent chance that he's able to get there basically just on volume. It wouldn't surprise me to see another 10-12 type target game and him being relied on really heavily to move the ball.
I like these Texans corners. So I think I think that honestly is a bit on the higher side, but yeah, I also depends on Quentin. I mean, if Quentin is turning into a pumpkin, then I don't think Herbert's going to look his way again if he has any early flubs. The Texans also play quite a bit of zone. I mean, everyone does, obviously, but they're a little bit on the heavier zone side, I think. So that has been a little more effective limiting McConkey. He's like elite against man. So we'll see what the Texans come up with as a plan here. But, yeah, I think the market is generally expecting not a ton of scoring. There has been some under movement here. I think that plays into the Texans' favor as well because, like you said, if this becomes any sort of shootout, I don't see how the Texans can keep up with Justin Herbert. So I think they need a lower scoring game. I think they'll get a lower scoring game. I trust this defense, and I think that's maybe the only really good unit on the field in this game. I don't know if the Chargers actually have a really good defense. I mean, the numbers love them, not as much as Houston, but yeah, they like them. But the level of competition has been very low for what the Chargers have faced this year. So when they have faced some of the tougher offenses, they've struggled. So I don't actually know if this is a good defense or not.
Yeah, it is definitely a fascinating game here against 2 teams that I hate, and so I don't like it's going to be a hate watch for me. I'll certainly be watching it, but teams that I do not think have a snowball's chance in hell of advancing once they get past this round when it all comes down to it. Just not teams that I like to really invest in here whenever I look at it, and I'm digging for ways of success, and that's kind of what I'm doing with both of these teams. Guys, as always, everything we do, absolutely free. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Do appreciate it. And good luck on all your Chargers and Texans bets.